Velina mai kako. To help our community better acknowledge and appreciate Hawaiian geography, history, and the people and language of this ʻāina, we explore a few of the multi-layered genealogies of our campus. We want to thank Dr. Christina Higgins and Kapua o ke Ko'olau ka Ulupua Adams from the Multilingual Multicultural Initiative for beginning and leading this effort, Native Hawaiian Student Services for helping to lead the first tours in 2018 at the Piko'oko'o Conference, Julius Paulo of the Mānoa Planning Department for sharing his wealth of knowledge about mapping in our campus, Kiahialaka Iowane, a former graduate research assistant with the Native Hawaiian Place of Learning Advancement Office who supported this project, and also Avis Po'ai, a former faculty specialist with the office who led the creation of our story map. This work would not have been possible without their hours of work and thoughtful contributions. Throughout this tour, you will explore some of the ili ʻāina of our campus. We will also invite you to explore the languages heard and seen, and maybe not heard and seen, and take notice of the mea kanu or plants that are being cultivated. Fun fact, did you know that UH Mānoa is a campus arboretum? As you take notice of the many trees, we invite you to wonder about the ones you recognize and have seen elsewhere in Hawaii. Take notice of the ones you do not recognize, too, and wonder about their names and histories. You will also hear some of the mo'olelo of our campus. We invite you to notice what's coming up for you and in your body as you hear these stories. What might be helpful in naming, unpacking, and sharing these stories with others. As you tour our campus, you may hear some of the same questions asked. We believe that repetition is some of the best medicine for changing and expanding the way we view the world and embody truth, healing, and transformation as we live and breathe on our campus. Finally, we invite you to wonder about how we tell stories that create a more complete and complex narrative of who we are as a campus community. Now, take a deep breath in and out. Please walk safely, and we hope you enjoy exploring our campus.
Velina mai kako. We will begin this part of our tour at Hawaiʻi Hall on the quad, where you should be able to see the architecture building across the way. We will make our way through Hawaiʻi Hall to enjoy a little air conditioning and walk down the hall towards Saunders Hall. Then we will pause in front of Saunders on the walkway, walk to the Queen Lili uokalani Center for Student Services, and then turn around and look at Varney Circle. Make your way to the Hawaiʻi Hall stairs facing architecture. As you take this tour, pay attention to what languages you notice. Perhaps what languages do you hear and not hear, now or when you have walked through this area before? What languages do you see and not see? What else do you wonder about in terms of what is present and not present, now and over time? Perhaps you might take in the plants. What plants do you notice and recognize? You may pause this recording now, and when you get to Hawaiʻi Hall, hit play. Hawaiʻi Hall is located in the ili ʻāina of Pili Pili. Can you say Pili Pili? Great. Pili Pili has many explanations in English. For example, as you learned earlier this week, Pili means to be close. It also means to be sticky. And we know from Hawaiian language newspapers that the mud of this area is actually a clay-like mud that is fed by underground water sources and was eaten because of its sweet taste. It was a delicacy. So interesting, right? Hawaiʻi Hall was the first building constructed on the University of Hawaii at Mānoa campus, back when it was just a college with a few majors that focused on various trades of the sugarcane industry. We also have historical photographs of Sanford B. Dole giving out diplomas on the front steps of Hawaiʻi Hall. Do you know who he was and what role he played in the overthrow? If not, what else do you know about the name Dole and what is associated with here in Hawaii? We invite you to continue to wonder about this story and what else you might want to learn about after this tour. Fun fact, the Native Hawaiian Place of Learning Advancement Office is currently in Hawaiʻi Hall 206. The office was established in 2017 and is the first time a Native Hawaiian Affairs office has ever been housed in this building. the building named Hawaiʻi Hall. As you hear these stories, what do you notice coming up for you? What might be helpful in naming, unpacking, and sharing these stories with others? Now take a deep breath in and a deep breath out. And please carefully make your way up the stairs and into Hawaiʻi Hall. Perhaps even enjoy some water at the fountain inside, and then exit the mocha doors of the building fronting Saunders. As you walk through Hawaiʻi Hall, take a moment to notice all that you see, and maybe things you wish you would see in a building named Hawaiʻi Hall. You can now pause this recording until you reach the walkway in front of Saunders. Welcome to Saunders Hall. What ili are we in? Yep, still in Pili Pili. The mo'oku'auhau of this building's many names is quite interesting. From the 1970s up until the 1990s, this was a site of tension and protest due to its former name. Do you know the former name of this building? Previously known as Porteous Hall, the building in front of you was named after Stanley Porteous, a psychology professor whose eugenics research included designing and administering psychological aptitude tests to children and adults during the early 1900s. Porteous became known for developing a theory of race differences based on genetic inheritance, which positioned Caucasians at the top of the hierarchy. He stated as fact that Hawaiian people were devoid of planning capacity, that Japanese people did not honor their contracts and thus were undependable, and that Portuguese people lacked self-control. The Board of Regents held public hearings on the issue not by their own accord, but after the uproar from students, and despite the protests, decided in 1975 to stand by their original decision to keep the building name. In 1998, after the Associated Students of the University of Hawai, or ASUH, again protested, the building was finally renamed to Saunders Hall in honor of University of Hawaii political science professor Alan Saunders, who was a champion of civil liberties. This change is a successful example of students, faculty, and community members standing up for what they believe in and want on this campus. While the building was still named Porteous, it was the home to Hawaiian studies, and the program faculty, including Professors Haunani-Kay Trask, Lilikala Kame'elehiwa, and Secretary Marv Lee Naukana-Gilding, who all shared one room in Porteous, did the math, and realized that the prisoners in the Oahu Community Correctional Center, or OCCC, had more personal space than they did. Professors Trask and Kame'elehiwa then started to share this story and realized that in other departments, professors had much more space in their private offices. And so, they began to go around with a measuring tape to various offices and asked to measure these spaces as part of a space equity study. Soon thereafter, Regent Gladys Kamakakuokalani Ainoa-Brandt found them space in Moore Hall. Eventually, Hawaiian Studies occupied 4 offices on the 4th floor of Moore Hall, before finally building and moving into Kamakakuokalani. As you hear these stories, what do you notice coming up for you? What might be helpful in naming, unpacking, and sharing these stories with others? Now take a deep breath in and a deep breath out, and make your way to the front of the Queen Lili Center for Student Services. You may pause this recording now and press play again once you get to the Queen Lili Center for Student Services. Welcome to the Queen Lili Center for Student Services, named after the last reigning monarch of Hawaii, Queen Lydia Lili'u Loloku Valenia Vevehi Kamaka'eha, affectionately known as Queen Lili'uokalani. This is one of a few buildings on campus with a Hawaiian name. Can you think of any others? An interesting fact about Queen Lili'uokalani is that she was one of the first people to have a vision of a higher education institution in Hawaii. In 1893, Queen Lili uokalani signed the act to establish a Bureau of Agriculture and Forestry. This bureau later became what we now know as the College of Tropical Agriculture and Human Resources, the first established college of Hawaii. The Queen Lili uokalani Center opened on September 5th, 2000, to celebrate the Queen's 162nd birthday, which is September 2nd, her commitment to her nation, and to especially celebrate her love of young people. As you walk from the front of the Queen Lili uokalani Center towards Webster Hall, on your left, you will see a meticulously stacked mound of rocks. This is Keahu o Kamakaʻeha, an altar or shrine dedicated to Hawaii's last reigning monarch. As you engage with this ahu, think about what stories you heard about Queen Lili uokalani and her relationship to our campus. What is coming up for you? What items have you seen placed at this ahu or similar ahu you have countered? What languages do you hear or not hear when you pass by this structure? As you turn around from the ahu, you can see a large grass circle with a cement water fountain. This is Varney Circle. During the construction of this part of campus, the Board of Regents of 1911 documented that there were 7 groups of Hawaiians living on this land in traditional ways of life, and they were getting in the way of the construction. These documents tell us that Hawaiians were still tilling the land, but ultimately the Board of Regents decided to forcefully evict the Hawaiians off of this land area for its construction. This is a familiar story for many Hawaiians during and after the Mahele, where traditional land stewardship was forcefully transitioned to Western land ownership. This was a confusing time for Hawaiians because, as Dr. Kame'eleihiwa always says, how can you buy and sell your grandmother? At the time, it was such a foreign concept for people to buy and own land rather than to have kuleana to mālama her. Again, as you hear these stories, what do you notice coming up for you? What might be helpful in naming, unpacking, and sharing these stories with others? We invite you to take a deep breath in and a deep breath out. This is the end of this tour. If you'd like to go on another tour, go for it. Mahalo for joining us.